sometimes when we're working on a project, it makes better sense to knit two things at once from one needle. I'm doing just that with some leggings that I've started for my granddaughter. And I have a couple of helpful hints if you're working pieces like that. This is really an awesome technique if you tend to not finish projects because you don't want to start another piece, or if you just have identical pieces that you're working up. In this case, the only seam I'll have when I'm done will be the inseam. And there's just a few things that I think will help you quite a bit. Consider if you're working on socks, like the socks that I have back here. Those were worked 2 at a time on one needle. And this is a 50-inch needle. It doesn't take that long, but you can join needles and go from there. So let's get right to just a couple little helpful hints to make it easier for you to work 2 things at a time, maybe more if you want. All right, we'll get right to it. Okay, here's my work on the needles. I've worked up a little bit so far. It should be apparent to you that in order to work 2 pieces at a time on one needle, you're going to need 2 separate balls of yarn. You can't knit off of the same ball unless you are working from the outside on one piece and the inside of the ball on the other. I think you're going to find that doing that will cause tangles. So I started with just one skein of this yellow yarn, and I wound it into one large ball, and then I proceeded to split that one skein into 2 equal parts. Do check, there's a link below for a tutorial that I did on exactly how to achieve this. These, I weighed them, is what I did as I wound them. And I'm just storing them in little Ziploc bags that are folded over, so that way when I'm switching my yarn back and forth, I don't have the possibility of the yarn getting, messy from that movement. And I really like doing that. Second thing, do yourself a favor and keep some notes on what you're doing. I'm going to hold this up a little bit more closely so that you can see. These columns represent both of my pieces, the left leg and the right leg, and then each row going down, the row is marked. And so as I complete the left leg, I put a check, the right leg, check. And you'll notice that the right leg is highlighted on my notes. And that's because I like to keep track of what I'm doing. And so I have color coded the right leg with a little pink marker and the right leg with a white marker. And these are the kind that just pull on and off. Now I realize that this is on the left, but it's just where I am in the work right now. And you'll find that as you work 2 things at a time, you often feel like it should be obvious where you are, but it's really helpful to do this kind of checklist for yourself before you even begin. The second thing that I did was, because each one of these pieces will be a leg, and this center section will be the outside of a leg. Later on, I'll be doing just one seam. I'm going to knit all the way up. I'm going to add some gusset increases for the baby to have a little extra rise and room for a diaper and whatever. And so when I cast on, I left a tail that was about, I'd say 2 feet long. So I'll have plenty of room on either leg to do the seaming. And I don't like for this yarn to be flopping around as I'm working. I already have my working yarn coming from my needles, and to me that's just distracting. So a good way to take care of that problem is to take your tail here that you're going to use for seaming, make a slip knot kind of up close to the work, okay? Don't worry about tightening it all the way together yet. And then take that yarn, wrap it around your fingers a few times, and slide it there into that slip knot. And then tighten the slip knot up. And that's a little bit fiddly, I'm not gonna lie to you, because part of the slip knot is in the loop itself. Once you have it tightened, take another slip marker, the kind that you can just put on and off, attach that marker to your little bundle of yarn, and then kind of hook it onto your cast on edge where there is a little more structure and you don't run the risk of having everything pulled in the body or the fabric here. So you can see I've done that on both sides. This works great. This is the best thing ever. So another thing I just want you to be aware of, even though it seems so painfully obvious to most people, if you're working your row, right, you're knitting, and let's say, like me, I like to have both pieces sort of close together because it balances out the weight better, so that when I'm working with the needle here, I don't have the weight down here on my needle. The one thing you don't want to do is continue knitting into your next piece. If you need to, you could put a marker here. I don't think that's necessary because this working yarn should serve as a reminder. But if it makes you feel better, by all means, just put a little slip marker, kind of like I've got on my fabric here, on that space. I hope that answers a couple of questions on how to keep 2 at a time on the needle. If you have found this helpful, please hit like. Feel free to subscribe. I love having folks that I can reach out to. And I just wish you all the best. Be happy, be healthy, be safe, and love each other. We just really need so much more of that in the world right now. Thanks for joining me.